All right, this is a how hard can it be sort of repair. I do these fairly frequently where I haven't actually done this before, but I just think it's got to be fun. It's got to be easy. And I'm usually really disappointed in myself when I take these things on. But today, I'm just in that mood. This chair is it's an antique chair that I bought about a year ago, and it's missing a rung here. This leg honks off in the wrong direction, and it's not level, and it's sort of painful to sit on. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't attempt to replace the rung. So what you can do is get a piece of doweling from the hardware store and sculpt a new rung. Or if you're feeling more adventurous and you've got a kind of eclectic looking chair, you can get a piece of just a piece of wood that you cut from the bush or the backyard if you don't have a bush. I mean, who has a bush really? And just put that in place, and that's kind of an interesting look too. It gives it a very rustic effect. However, this is a piece of green wood that just came from the pile over there, and green wood, you can see as it's been lying there, it's starting to check and it splits, and it has real problems if you just use it like this. So what you do is take this happens to be a wallpaper tray, but it's the right length, and just fill it with some antifreeze, because antifreeze contains polyethylene glycol, which is kind of like a wax in solution. And so what it does is it fills the pores of the wood, the cells of the wood, and it swells them a little bit. Most importantly, it permanently holds the cells from checking or splitting or anything like that. And let it soak overnight, and it'll have a slightly waxy appearance, but the great thing is it'll never check or shrink or warp or twist, which is what you'd like in a rung. And of course, this stuff, the doweling that you buy from the hardware store, is not going to shrink or check or twist or whatever those other things I said either, because it's kiln dried, which means it's stabilized. It's a short way of saying it. All right, so the first thing to do is to take a measurement for the size of the rung that you want. It's tricky because, of course, everything's on angles. It's pretty close to a foot, though. And then we have to also add to that 12 inches the measurement for how deeply the tenon is going to sink into the mortise. So to do that, you can just take a smaller piece of dowel, like so, and just mark it, and then measure it. So it's 12 inches plus, well, an inch and 1/16, I guess. So I'm going to start to add them, 12 plus an inch and a 1/16. And to cut it, I'm going to use a Japanese saw. I love these saws. They cut on the pull stroke rather than the push stroke. These saws are really fun and really easy to control. So set it in the score line and just use your thumb to brace it so that it floats through. Okay, so there's my rung. Now we get to the whittling part. Now, see, if I'm going to do something pretty and sculptural like this rung over here, I think we're talking, you know, an art project. It's a couple of hours of playing around with the wood. I wanted to show you one other technique, too, for shaping the rung to the shape that you want. This is a belt sander, and it's clamped onto the table here. So you get the idea. It cuts pretty quickly, the belt sander. So it's a good way to go if you have to do, say, 9 or 10 rungs and you're getting just a little tired of sanding. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up and then fit it, and then we have to worry about coloring it the right color. Okay, so I've got the basic shape that I want. This is the shape. It's kind of thin in the middle, as though sort of a person with one really small foot sat on this chair a lot and wore it. It's not quite right, is it? Probably should be the opposite, but it's my own design, okay? Now, here is the mystery of sandpaper explained. You start with coarse. That's what I was just using. And it gives the object a kind of a woolly feeling. because all it does is it takes the rough edges down a bit. But it'll probably be really hard to see this, but it has a kind of a woolly quality. So you take all the little high spots down with the really coarse stuff, and then you move on to the medium grit stuff. This is 100 grit, whereas this stuff, which has got like little stones in it, is 60 grit. So the higher the number in sandpaper, the finer it is. So I'm going to rip off a piece of this and go over it with the medium now, since it's down to where I want it. Okay, so I'm on my final, my finest grit of sandpaper, which is 120. And the next step is to take some fine steel wool and rub it over the surface of the wood, and that planes off any little fibers that might be sticking up. And it makes it incredibly silky and smooth. There you go. Oh, so smooth. You just would love this. You could feel it. Then I'm going to do something funny, which is take a wire brush and score the, see on, where can I show you where this is? See on this leg, the black patina, and it's, I think, just mostly from wear and maybe grime, but it has a really beautiful and distinctive look, and it's part of what makes this chair special. So I want to add a little bit of that to this rung that I'm faking as a fake antique rung. So I'm going to just around the edges take the wire brush to it, and that deepens the grain so that it'll hold the color I'm about to put on it. This is just a bunch of colors that I'm going to try rubbing into this so that I can try to match the color of the original wood. Okay, so this is coming. I got it a little too red, and then I had to add green, which you can see on the palette over here in the corner. It's a very shocking green color, but in fact it was just the shade that needed to overpower the reds. And I'll show you, this is the rung that I'm matching it to, because this is the original rung and it's quite worn, and that's the color. I mean, they're pretty darn close at this point. So now I just need to add a little bit of black again with my my greeny colored rag. I'll just grab a little bit of black over here and rub it into the ends to try to get that old looking business. And I'm just using the dry rag to blend it a little bit. And there, see, it's dead close, and that's just acrylic paint. All right, so the last thing to do is, once this is dry, I'll have to use the steel wool on it again just to take the grain down a little bit. But I think I can go ahead and fit it into the chair so that we have a final look at it. You need to get both surfaces of the wood coated, and you need to let the glue soak in a little bit because it swells the fibers, and then the glue bonds to itself. It's a polymer thing. So I'll take the Q-tip and swab the inside of the mortise. And you want to use lots of glue. You can always wipe away the excess. And then I'm going to go over the ends of the tenons as well. Okay, so wipe away the excess glue with a wet rag, a wet, not painted part of your rag, and then leave it to sit, and it should be usable within 24 hours. Whittling is so fun, as you will discover, and it's a really good thing to do on a mellow evening. The idea, though, is to start with a chair that isn't too valuable so that you get your practice. And the irritation level is very low because it's whittling, and whittling is cool.